This podcast is a member of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts and content creators, visit bio.link/red5.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
What is up? Caught you with your britches down. Scott Ryfun is in the house here at the Scare of Scuttlebutt podcast. How's it going, Scott?
I didn't know you could see that I had my britches down. I thought it all stopped like at waist high or something. Is that, Can you see? Oh.
I know. This is britches vision.
Yeah.
At the SSP. No, I jinxed myself. I said I didn't want to call SP, but here I am calling it the SSP.
Curse
enough,
you.
Enough of that. Comics and Danny, my pal Danny is first, and
he's there. Good.
She gets a prize. Excellent. I don't know what prize, but speaking of prizes, we do have a lot to give away, and later on I will let you guys know as you scroll on in to the chat how you can be a recipient of said prizes. And if you are looking to see what in a way, I got a whole bin of cool nerdy merchandise that I will ask you guys a question. So yeah, that'll be cool. Yes, Scott, how is your summer treating you so far?
Hot. It's really hot. It's funny. I was at the barber shop today, and some guy walked in. Fortunately, I know him. He walked in and started ragging me because I was wearing shorts. He's like, "Hey, you're a man.
What?
Grown men don't wear shorts." Well, yes,
really?
This grown man wears shorts when it's 100 degrees. This grown man is wearing shorts.
Wow.
I'm not double layering and wearing corduroy and all that other stuff. It's shorts. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to post that question in my personal chat. See if the internet agrees with your barber patron.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. He was a
Wow.
former judge, so I tried not to get in too big a fight with him.
He knows people.
Yeah. He could have you vanished from the planet, but other than that, he's great.
That's fantastic. Hey, I noticed you got some really cool new lighting back there.
Why? As a matter of fact, I do. I had these terrible things called puck lights. I don't know if you've heard of these or not, but I would never buy one if I were you.
No.
And whoops.
And I bought a couple.
Yeah,
but,
actually, when I first did this room, do you know the story of this room?
I'm sure you've mentioned it, but I don't think you've gone into detail.
I'll give you the really Cliff's Notes version. This was my office way back in the day, and it was also a guest room. And my mother-in-law had a really bad fall, and she moved in with us, which was the single most horrible experience I've had in my entire life. But I had to take everything out of here and put it in storage. And it was all a mishmash. This bookcase that I got one day here, and this bookcase I got 5 years later here, and just nothing matched, nothing. It was just all a bunch of stuff. 49 boxes of Star Wars books, by the way, and all went to storage. She moved out 6 months later, and I went, okay, now I'll get my stuff out of storage. And my wife went, hold on, Sparky. You're gonna redo that room the way you want to do it, the way you think it should be done. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah. So here I am sitting there with the RE20. I've got the Rodecaster Pro 2 sitting to my left. And, so part of it was the bookcases are going to be big and tall and full of stuff. And one of the things I did was the center bookcase. I decided to make kind of a helmet bookcase, even though at the time I think I had maybe 2 helmets. And when I did that originally, I put puck lights in there. And they were great, but the batteries lasted about 38, 39 seconds. Oh, wow. And that was about it. So I'd get like really one good podcast appearance out of the puck lights. So a couple of weeks ago, I decided to get a screwdriver out and gouge holes in the backs of the different shelves so I could run a tape light in and out of the cases so that it would be much brighter and always electric. So I never had to change the batteries, and I can still change the color like I could with the puck lights, but I'm not beholden to the battery monster.
Sure. Yeah.
So
No, looks good. Looks good. Wow. So your wife let you change the room to your liking, to your specifications. You know, there's always a catch. What's
she
the catch?
practically no, I don't know. She loves me. I gotta look. I gotta also.
No.
Nothing. I'm sorry. Nothing drives me crazier than to be around a bunch of old crotchety men who sit and bitch about their wives all the time. I'm sorry. I hate that. I hate it. I am so crazy about my wife. I'm so nuts about her, and she does things like this, selfless as can be. And this room is, and the great thing is now I can really work out of this room like I never could before. Plus, it's just kind of my fortress of solitude. You know how this is. You got one of those rooms.
Absolutely. And talking about wives, this used to be her office. And she said, you know what? I'm going to pack up. You can have this room. And I'm like, wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
So no complaining here.
No. See, that's the thing, that we have great wives. Not going to complain.
My only question is, why is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, why is Darth Vader 4 levels down?
Okay. Darth Vader is 4 levels down because the top shelf is fixed in size. The shelf underneath it is kind of sort of fixed. The shelf above Vader is fixed. So it's really the only place I could fit him.
Gotcha.
Plus,
I see. It's a little high.
That's the Black Series Obi-Wan helmet, by the way, with the red lenses. I love that one. I got a Disney. Yeah. I got my little. I think I got a 30% discount. I got DVC discount or something. But and then right above that, you see this right here. You know what that is?
What is that? I can't see. Is that? I can't see it from this distance.
No, it's a framed photograph, and the frame is kind of a Millennium Falcon hyperspace
theme.
Okay,
yeah.
The photograph is the important thing. It is my son, G-Man Garrison, when it was 2007, so he was 9 years old. Oh, I'm the only guy now. Look at that. Did you go away, or did you just put me
I'm
up?
here. I just wanted to see if I could maybe see that image there.
Right yeah. Okay. This right here, that's my son, G-Man, right there.
Oh.
And that is Lord Vader, and they are clashing sabers. They're fighting.
Very nice.
At Disney, they had just started the Jedi Training Academy. In fact, at the time, like eventually as the thing evolved, everybody could be in it. And at the time, they were just picking random kids out of the crowd. We didn't know about it. One of the cast members says, "Oh, you guys like Star Wars, huh?" Which I don't know about you, but I never know how to actually answer that question.
You know what? Wear it on your sleeve, brother. I mean, it looks like you already have.
Well, no, I do, but that's the thing. It's like when you're walking around with this shirt on and somebody goes, "Oh, you like Star Wars, huh?" No, really, no, not in the slightest, actually. Sucks pretty badly, but the shirt was on sale, and what can you say? And I like things that look like bed sheets, so I decided to wear it. And no, so anyway, they did that, and then they gave us little tips for how we could get in on the get picked on the thing. And so he got picked, and part of it was they train you to do certain moves on stage. It's all on stage in front of God and everybody. Right. And then Vader crashes the party. And Vader's like, "Oh, what do you got going on here? And I'll test your Padawans or whatever." And so he has a little fight with each kid out there. And like here's my son, he's 9 years old, and he's doing a lightsaber duel with Darth Vader. And I'm just like,
proud father moment. Yes.
No, it's just, there's pollen. That's all. Just stop. So it's great.
Somebody's cutting onions. That's fantastic. Yes. Yeah.
One of my favorite moments ever.
Yeah, it's so nice. It's so nice. And speaking of nice, we got some nice people in the chat. Let's say hello to, we did mention Danny. She's got the little crown with a number 1 on it, which it might mean that she's super special. I'm not sure. Then we got Nicole and Spencer over at the Dingus Den. Thank you for joining us.
And Ben.
And Ben, yes, KS Geekman.
Yes.
Always wonderful to interact with him on the socials. Awesome. Great people in the chat. There's a couple people lurking, I think, perhaps, maybe. But thank you for finding us here at the Scarab Scuttlebutt podcast. Quick announcement. If you just found us, thanks for coming by. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe. We'd love to see those numbers go up. But we really love interacting with folks on the socials. We are part of the Red 5 Network, the Scarab Scuttlebutt podcast. Alphabetically, we're towards the bottom there, obviously, but have head on over to bio.link/Red5 and check out the rest of the nerds that are part of the Red 5 network, whether it's podcasts or YouTube's discussions and reviews. We got a little bit of everything, and that is a lot of fun. So this summer has been crazy for nerds, don't you think?
Oh yeah.
It's
and in a good way.
nuts. In a good way, yeah. But nerds are going to be nerds, and I feel like no matter how good it is, we still complain, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's in the DNA.
It's
The
in the
weird thing is,
DNA.
there was a point in time where it was not in the DNA, and we accepted whatever we had.
Sure.
When in 1987 I bought Star Wars 3D, it was awful. When Blackthorn Publishing, it was horrible. But you know what? I was happy they were publishing a Star Wars comic book.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you go, oh, that one sucked. Oh, this one's terrible, and you're still buying all of them. I did Kiss without makeup for 12 years. And yet I survived to tell the tale, and I didn't complain at the time. I just did it. I sucked it up. But now we complain about everything. Oh, another farewell tour. Hey, they're still playing. Stop it.
I know, right? Yeah, that's too funny. But it's funny because I was having a discussion earlier today regarding I guess you would call it legacy nerd media, movies from the I won't clump the 70s into it, because it's like maybe movies that we grew up when we were teenagers. So like maybe 80s, 90s. Those 2 decades had some interesting movies from our neck of the woods, science fiction, fantasy. And I was talking with somebody regarding, I guess, one of my hot takes earlier in the week. I was talking about the the mediocre nature of movies nowadays, and not just science fiction and fantasy, but I guess, a lot of people kind of complain about some of the movies that are pretty meh, if you take my meaning. And they said that that it's no different back then. It's just that, and I was a little surprised. I don't think as many movies back then were as mediocre as maybe they are now, for me anyways.
Oh yeah, they were.
Okay.
No, and I'll tell you, one of the things that absolutely just that really tipped the scales into deep mediocrity was the direct-to-video market. You remember at some point they started making movies and just releasing them straight out on VHS, and you knew you were going to get, so they started producing a lot more product, and so yeah, the mediocrity level was going to go up. I actually agree with the people. I'm opposed to you, sir.
Like American Ninja 5.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
straight to VHS.
And then the bad news is you have to have a recap of 1 through 4 before, of course, you watch that.
Right.
But yeah, and all of what's it, Full Moon Entertainment, came to life on VHS. So there's Jean-Claude Van Damme has a career mostly because Bloodsport was a big hit on VHS. So anyway.
Andrew just showed up in the chat, the Science Fictionary. Thank you very much. And Spencer, I think you have a point. I think it's nostalgia. I think growing up with these movies, and now that Scott mentions all the direct to home video market, I mean, I can definitely
The Punisher,
see, all that stuff. But
The Punisher starring Dolph Lundgren and Louis Gossett Jr. Also, let me also point out, in the 80s and 90s, Dino De Laurentiis was still producing films at an alarming clip. And I don't know that you can point to a lot of Dino De Laurentiis films and go, boy, that was great.
What a masterpiece.
Yeah, that was something. Boy, that Maximum Overdrive was the best. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. But, fast forward a couple of decades and we get a summer like 2025 where we are seeing a whole bunch of cool movies to wet our whistle, if you will. How are you during the summer when it comes to movies? Do you wait until they're out of the theater? Do you watch them streaming? Do you go to the theater? What's your theatrical landscape? How does that go?
I'm a big fan of the theaters. When I was a kid, my mom took me just about every Saturday to the movies, just about, and dropped me off. Usually with a friend, sometimes not, but I was always at the movie theater. And so I have a deep love of movie theaters, and I also know that a lot of theaters have been in trouble in the last several years. I try to go as much as possible.
Okay.
That having been said, if a movie that I want to see is a movie that I just kind of want to see, and it's not on the big premium large format screen, I will usually wait to watch it on because I have a really nice theatrical setup in my house.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll sit down and watch it on my projector instead of on their projector at, if it's not in the really good theater. But by and large, I try to support the theatrical experience as much as possible. My biggest thing is just my schedule doesn't always permit for it, but
sure,
I've been okay this summer. I didn't catch Mission Impossible, which I feel bad about, but a lot of that was Mrs. Ryfun wanted to watch the other 7 before we did that.
Oh,
and so I think we've gotten 6 deep and we haven't gotten quite there yet. But but I know what we did. We made sure to catch Superman. I know you didn't care for Superman.
No, I equate it to a homeless man's underarm pit smell. I didn't like it at all.
But wait, you're a Man of Steel guy, right?
Well, here's the thing. You're clumping me in with the Snyder Bros, which I'm not. I just enjoy. I enjoy Henry Cavill as Superman. I really enjoy the Man of Steel, and I think for me, people make fun of me, but I really don't like when comic book movies throw a lot of like goofy sophomoric comedy just because. I loved The Dark Knight. I loved that trilogy because it was grounded in reality. I loved Man of Steel because of the same reasons. And Superman 2025, as people are calling it, was, and I understand it definitely is like you opened up a comic book and you're reading it under a tree on a Saturday, morning, having your Rice Krispies, and it's a comic book come to life. But to me, it was just too colorful, too silly, and I don't remember 92% of the film now that I've watched it already.
It was too colorful, which means you never bought things on Baxter paper, I guess. Is that what you're telling me?
Oh yeah. I give it, out of all the movies that I've seen, this summer, and I've seen a lot of them, I give Superman for me is probably the lowest. I give it a C.
And I'll tell you, and I won't waste a lot of your time going in depth on Man of Steel, but I'll just say when I came out of Man of Steel, which I did also make sure to catch at the theater, because I do love Superman. When I came out of the theater, I said to my family, because my son and I have great film discussions. He is ridiculously educated in film. And I said, my problem with this movie is it was joyless. I didn't get the sense of awe and wonder that you have when Superman is a guy who can fly and can do all these wonderful things. And that's what I got out of the Donner film. And I got that out of this film. I didn't get that out of Man of Steel. It was too dark and dreary to me. Whereas this one I did enjoy more. I could do without James Gunn's formula. In fact, I would love it if he would just hand it off.
Sure.
But in the overall, I did enjoy this, and I did enjoy Guy Gardner a lot. But I'm sorry, I did enjoy Guy Gardner. But yeah, I liked this Superman. It plot wise, thin, very thin. But it had a sense of joy, it had a sense of awe, it had a sense of wonder, it had a sense of fun that I felt like Superman needed. Now, I think Henry Cavill is a great Superman. I didn't like his film very much. I also, though, think Cornsweet is a very good Superman. I think they've done a good job casting Superman the last couple times. I don't think Brandon Routh was a bad Superman. I think he was in a bad film.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think in general, I would agree with your assessment regarding casting of Superman. I just didn't care for this film. I mean, it literally was, opening up a goofy comic book. It's silly. And again, the James Gunn formula, I can attest to that as well. Although, I love Guardians of the Galaxy. I was pleasantly surprised with the third Guardians of the Galaxy. I did not know what to expect, and it just pulled me in emotionally. But this Superman sucked ass.
Well, Well, one of the things that Gunn tends to do, in my opinion, is he tends to keep things a little emotionally distant. And I think that's why that third Guardians the film kind of played with a lot of our heads, is because he didn't.
Yeah.
He really was very raw
Yeah.
with that film. And I think it worked because I didn't care much for the second Guardian. I love the first Guardians film. Second one I didn't care for because I saw that same formula happening, and I'm watching the same movie again with, you know, a different dressing on it. And then the third movie came along, and it's still kind of his formula, but he went somewhere emotionally that I wasn't expecting, because again, he kind of puts a wall between himself and genuine emotion a lot to me. And there was that wall a little bit in the Superman movie, but I just enjoyed being able to watch a movie where there could easily be a believable headline on the Daily Planet that says "Caped Wonder Stunned City." So
yeah. Well, as long as we evacuate the residents of the city before the building comes down, again,
well,
within 30 seconds.
that was a beef of mine with the Man of Steel, was that just like when I walked out of the theater, I went, there was so much wanton destruction. I don't just trying to figure out who they were saving with this movie.
Excellent. Yes. But enough of Superman. I wanted to get to a comment that you made early on about Fantastic Four. And I wanted to ask you about it, and I wanted you to kind of tease it out a little more, because obviously Fantastic Four, I gave it an A. I think I had the Jurassic World movie, I gave a B. Superman, I gave a C, you know, the full letter grades, and then Fantastic Four, an A. I really enjoyed it. And then obviously, you know, full disclosure, I'm more of a Marvel guy than a DC guy.
Sure.
Although, you know, my DC love does extend to Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. I love those three.
The Trinity.
Yeah. Not really familiar with Guy Gardner, not really familiar with the floaty ball guy with the T on his face. You know, all those
terrific.
extra, right. All those extra characters I'm not really familiar with.
Yeah.
But you know, I can watch a movie and enjoy it for what it was. But okay, so getting back to the comment that you had made about Fantastic Four, you had
I didn't
asked,
notice it's going to be an Inquisition. Wow. Okay.
you had mentioned and you had pleaded on your Twitter account for folks to go watch this movie.
Yes.
Because it was more or less, and I'm using your words, it was a pro-life movie.
Yes.
And you were pleading for people to go and watch it and experience it and talk about it, because when Marvel and DC and the suits make this type of movie, people should run and go see it. Explain a little bit to that, because I don't remember any movies that were movies like killing babies and fetuses beforehand. I mean, I don't get it. What's going on here?
I think there is so we're going to get political here. This is interesting. This is going to be good. Look, I'm a political conservative, and one of the things that I believe very strongly is in the right to life. And I think Hollywood, yes, is very dismissive of children and the unborn in the overall. I mean, we make horror movies where we've got to kill the unborn or else. And, you know, Damien is a great example of a child, you know, which, you know, I'm also a guy who owns all 5 Omen novels. So, you know, but yes, I believe in fostering a culture of life, and I don't see a lot of that reflected. Also, just conservatives as a whole often feel Hollywood is kicking sand in their face regarding their values in a lot of different ways. And you see a lot of conservatives going online and campaigning and crusading against Marvel or DC, mostly Marvel and Disney and that kind of thing. They're too woke and all of that. And Fantastic Four was a movie that was not that. And Fantastic Four was very much a movie where a pregnant Sue Storm is going to do anything she can to have her baby, including put the entire world at risk.
Sure.
You know, they take moments to actually show the child in the womb, which I thought was beautiful. It was a movie that I thought was pro-family, that I thought was pro motherhood, that I thought was pro baby. And I don't know that we see that explicitly, even if it's not attacked. I don't think we see it explicitly stated in films. And sometimes just leaving that out can make, people with my sensitivities feel bad. That it was there and that they complain so much and boycott so much these films. I feel like, okay, you know what? They just made a movie that is everything you say you want. It embraced your values in this film. It is not time for you to start trying to heap on and say, well, I have no interest in this, or Pedro Pascal is a bad guy, or whatever, the complaint has to be. This is a movie that literally embraces values that many conservatives claim to espouse. And I do think it is what you have to do is you have to vote with your dollars. And when you decide, hey, years ago, again, as a conservative, there was a prominent Star Wars author who I will not name, but his initials are Chuck Wendig, who said that Republicans should be thrown into a wood chipper. At that point, I made the decision I cannot give my money to a person, though I'm not a Republican. I decided, that's the major party with which I would most closely align would be that. And I decided I cannot give my money to a guy who wants me thrown into a wood chipper, or people that I appreciate as human beings thrown into a wood chipper. So that having been said, I voted with my dollars. When something disagreed with me, I didn't buy something. I feel like when there's something that does support your positions and it's good quality entertainment, I think it is incumbent upon people who decide they're going to boycott something, that they also have to be willing to boycott something.
Okay. All right. Well, let's I'm going to circle back with something. I think those are all great thoughts. I wanted to get your take on something specific you said. So let's flip the coin there, because obviously, okay, yes, it is a family centric movie. Because of the nature of the characters. Obviously, if you've read any Fantastic Four, they are a unit. There's relatives and husbands and babies and kids, and obviously it's a family. Marvel's first family, if you will.
Yes.
But on the flip side, if this film was not all those things, what is the one other Marvel film that you might have expected this to be like, based on your proclivities as what you say as a conservative, right-leaning moviegoer is, where you would say, you know what, I'm going to vote with my dollar and not go see Fantastic Four? What would that Fantastic Four, what would it have looked like in contrast to what it is? Because I'm trying to see, like, in the overall global aspect of your comment regarding, pro-life.
Yeah.
I just wanted to hear what the opposite is, in order for me to understand.
It's not that the other movies were necessarily, abortion factories, abortion mills.
Right.
But obviously there is a lot of content, and there's a lot of the diversity for diversity's sake type of thing. There's a thing today in media that drives me nuts, which is I have to see myself on screen in order to enjoy it, which is one of the most narcissistic things I've ever heard in my entire life. But it leads to really bad casting.
Yeah, absolutely. But let me add this. I'm with you with that. I am brown. I am Mexican. I'm more, liberal than most people that follow me on Twitter and know me from wherever. I work in media. I mean, I am the trifecta of all the stuff that people hate.
No. But
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Before I lose my train of thought here, there are people, and I'm going to say young people, that for some reason do need that. And you and I, as fathers, can I'm hoping we can appreciate that aspect of films.
Why
Or
why do they need that? Why do they
well,
need it?
exactly. That's where I was going. I mean, I didn't need it. I didn't need to see a Mexican Luke Skywalker in order for me to appreciate Luke Skywalker as a character, right?
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
need any of that. And I think one of the reasons that I didn't need that is because, I don't know, there's self-esteem that comes into play. There is upbringing that comes into play. There's community that comes into play. So I'm asking you, I guess, what, I guess I'm reiterating your question. Why do those kids or young people or even adults nowadays, why do they need to see themselves up on the big screen in order for them to enjoy something? Because I agree with you, it's ridiculous. But
I think because there's an air of narcissism, and I'm going to tell you a story in a second, but I think it's because we have go back to one of the words you used was self-esteem. And there, decades ago, there started the self-esteem movement where the end goal was to, the end goal should be that a child grows up and has great self-esteem. Unfortunately, I think it became amongst educators and child care people, the child experts and everything. It became the beginning goal. Let's give them self-esteem and then everything else will follow. And that doesn't really work out because you kind of have to earn some self-esteem. You can't just be a horrible human being, but hey, you've got self-esteem. And so self-esteem became the beginning point rather than the end point where you end up. I remember my daughter used to tell me sometimes she'd get in big trouble because she would do stupid things and we'd punish her and she'd say, "You're ruining my childhood." And I'd say, "That's fine. I'm not here for you to have a good childhood. I'm here to get you prepared to have a good adulthood." And I think we fawn over kids a little too much and we don't actually expose them to the real world. We were just having a conversation in the household the other day about bullying and bullying education, and they'll have the No Bullies Week. And the reality is the world is a bully. Sure. And I think, and I'm not saying we should tolerate kids getting the crap beat out of them, but at the same time, we shouldn't just sit there and say, you should never, ever, ever, ever have to deal with bullying ever in your life. Because the reality is, once you get exposed to the world, you're going to have to deal with it. And you need to learn how to deal with that at a young age. As far as and I can also go back into the marketing thing. At one point we had to stop watching Disney Channel in the house because every live action show, the template was, it was a reverse Leave It to Beaver. You ever watch Leave It to Beaver?
Mm-hmm.
I used to watch it all the time, unfortunately. And I used to get so frustrated, get so angry because the premise would be Beaver wants to do something. Ward tells him not to do that. Beaver does it anyway. He gets in big trouble because he did it anyway. He screws up. He gets, and then Ward has to come and bail him out. And then Beaver says, "Okay, Dad, you were right. I'm sorry." The template got flipped on its head somewhere around the 90s, where every live action show with kids was the kids want to do something, just like Beaver. The parents don't want them to, just like Beaver. The kids do it anyway, just like Beaver. The parents try to stop them, but then the parents get in trouble and something terrible happens. The kids bail them out and the adults thank them for having the wisdom they never possessed. And so it became kid-centric. Now I know why they do that, because that appeals more to little kids' egos and they're they want to watch that more than something else. You can sell ads to them easier that way and that kind of thing. But it's a bad way to present life choices to kids. Now here's the story I'm going to tell you. Years ago, PJ, my little next door neighbor, who's not little anymore, but when he was little, he came over to my house, and PJ is a young black man now. And PJ came over to my house and he had on a Captain America costume and he had a holster on, and he said, "Hey, Mr. Scott, look at me." And I said, "That's great. You're Captain America." He said, "Yeah, but Captain America I am." And I thought, oh boy, here we go with the identity politics. He's going to have to be the Sam Wilson Captain America. And I said, I don't know. Which Captain America are you? And he looks at me like I'm an idiot. And he goes, "The World War II Captain America, because he's the only one that's got a gun."
Right. Duh.
It did not occur to this young black child that he couldn't see himself in the World War II Steve Rogers Captain America.
Yeah.
He very much saw himself in that Captain America.
Sure.
And I loved that.
Yeah.
Because it meant it doesn't matter what you look like. It's more what values are presented to you.
Right.
And you hear the same thing in education. We have to have teachers who look like us. I never had a little fat black kid or a little fat white kid teaching me when I was in school, but somehow I did okay.
Yeah.
You know, so I never had a teacher that looked like me. I've never been to a movie where I saw somebody look like me, but I'm still okay. I think it has much more to do with the story you tell, the values you impart. Does that go anywhere for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, you know, I never needed anyone to look like me on screen in order for me to enjoy, you know, a film,
No.
especially these types of films. Obviously, we open up a comic book and we see a dude, you know, who's a rock and a guy who can,
and things my number two.
Yeah. Yeah. So
look, when I was a kid, when I was 9 or 10 years old, you know what my day was? My day was coming home and trying to figure out, because we live in Brunswick, which is between Savannah and Jacksonville, like almost dead in the middle. So we would get both markets TV on our cable system. So we get all the Savannah channels, all the Jacksonville channels. And my goal every day was to see how often I could watch Sanford and Son in a day. And it was like I could max it out at 4 or 5, because you also had Turner out of Atlanta, which was showing it, and Jacksonville early and Savannah later, and I could watch it 4 or 5 times in a day. And when I could max it out, I was happy. You know who I didn't see in Sanford and Son? Me.
Yeah,
but I loved the show. It was funny. It was great. So again, it goes back to I'm not a fan of that, but yeah, there's no big orange Rocky guy in my household, or there's no orange Rocky guys going to see it at the theater.
Right.
The Thing's my number 2 guy. My 2 favorite superheroes are Spider-Man and The Thing, in that order.
Marvel 2-in-1.
Yeah, Marvel 2-in-1, Marvel 2-in-1, and Marvel Team Up right there.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, the thing and Fantastic Four were kind of my gateway drug into regular comics collecting. It started with Star Wars years before.
Sure.
And I would always peruse the racks and go, oh, these are great. These are awesome. These are wonderful. And then my brother convinced me that every single number 1 is worth $1 million. So when I see a number 1, I would buy it. And so G.I. Joe number 1 came out and I bought it. Team America number 1 came out. That's going to be worth $1 million.
Sure.
And and The Thing number 1 came out and I bought it. And then I think it was number 2 when it came out. Because I loved The Thing. It was just, I read the book and I was like, this guy's great. I love him. And I think it was the beginning of the 2nd issue where he's cleaning up in the Baxter building and they're like, hey, if you want to know what happened, check out Fantastic Four 256. And I went, okay. So I got Fantastic Four 256. And then they went, hey, by the way, this ties into Avengers 233. And I went, okay. And I was off to the races. But so, you know, kind of my gateway drug to regular comics collecting was John Byrne's Fantastic Four.
Sure.
So really was waiting for this movie to come out. But and I'll also say this movie versus, I know I'm bouncing around, this movie versus Superman, this movie has stuck with me a lot more.
Okay.
This movie stayed with me a lot longer. It has made me think about it a lot more since, you know, it's had an aftertaste, if you will.
Well, let me ask you this then, you know, let's jump right into it. What is that aspect of why did it make you think more than Superman? What is it about Fantastic Four? And if we can distill a little bit of the nostalgia, because obviously you talked deeply about the comic books. And honestly, I don't remember the other Fantastic Four movies that came before it. I mean, I remember snippets and stuff like that. But talk to me a little bit about your, I guess, the presence of mind when it comes to this Fantastic Four. Why is it that it's stuck with you?
Because they were doing it right. You know, it's funny because they actually had an opportunity to take things off the rails by making the Silver Surfer a woman, and female washing him, and but it actually, when you watch the film, it actually plays into it. It actually works for the purpose of the story, which is why you should do something like that. You know, you don't do it arbitrarily. You don't do it because we have to represent someone, but it actually makes the story work better to have the Silver Surfer be female. So let's do that. Distilling it, why does it work? You know what my favorite Marvel movie was before this? And it may still be.
What was it?
Captain America, the First Avenger.
Sure. Same here.
And really? We do this far too often, by the way.
And by the way, I just want to say, Dave, welcome to the Scare Scuttlebutt podcast.
Nice.
If it is indeed your first time, thank you for stopping by.
But the the reason why the Captain America movie appealed to me so much was that it presented on screen for the first time the real sense that there is a gigantic Marvel universe out there.
Sure.
You know, the Stark Expo's going on. You see Professor Horton's android in the tube there. You know that's going to be the Human Torch. You know, it just, as you're watching this and you see Dum Dum Dugan look just like he does in the comics, and it was, and they, you know, they've got references to Thor in there, and Hydra is in there, and so it was just the first time that it went, you know, that Marvel universe that you've seen in the comics all these years. We've done some hinting at it, but this is it. Here it is. Look at it.
Well,
and Fantastic Four did some of that same type world building for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think watching Fantastic Four and seeing how the characters start to roll out and interact with each other, I was really surprised at, and Danny over at Comics and said it in her when she got out of the theater. She said that Marvel really seemed to have done their homework on this, and I couldn't agree more. I think when I saw the Thing, Ben, and Human Torch, Johnny, their interaction in the movie was so much like the comic books. The quips back and forth were not over the top, not your usual over the top Marvel style. They were subdued, but still pretty, you know, digging at each other. And it was really great because you can tell that the digs were brought on by love. They really loved each other. And then obviously when Sue Storm, and spoilers guys if you hadn't seen it, when Sue Storm comes in and announces that she's pregnant, and then they both get together and they're going to be like, we're going to be the best uncles ever. I mean, you can really tell that there's a connection between the two characters, and that's how I remember them from the comic books.
Yes, absolutely.
What did you think of some of the other characters too? I will you know, share this with you. When the cast was announced, I was very worried. I did not see Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. I did not see, but I got to tell you, Pedro nailed it. I did not see Pedro Pascal. I saw Reed Richards in this role, and he was phenomenal.
I totally agree with you. And the funny thing is, you know, we were talking politics earlier, and I know he's a lightning rod for people. In fact, when I put out on social media that people need to go see this movie, immediately somebody said, I would, but Pedro Pascal's in it. Here's the thing. You cannot like what Pedro Pascal does off screen, but the guy has, and I've said this to a bunch of people. I've had this conversation with a lot of folks. The guy has some real chops.
Yeah.
And he put them on display in that film. He is, I don't dislike anybody in that film. I don't think. I think everybody is terrific in that movie. But Pedro Pascal as the leader of the Fantastic Four and as Reed Richards, I not only see his eccentricities there, I feel when he has the weight of the world on his shoulders. I see his care and concern for his family and how it, you know, he has that conflict between I can save the world and I can save my family. And I'm not sure what I have to do today. Pedro Pascal's fantastic in this movie.
I agree. You mentioned Silver Surfer, and I think obviously when the trailer came out, everybody jumped down the throat of the internet and said, why are they doing this? Obviously, some people were not aware that the character was female in a certain incarnation of the comic book stories. But you're right. This worked flawlessly. The way she was developed and the way we found out, you know, why she's doing what she's doing for Galactus, it was pretty ingenious.
Yeah, it worked. And again, you know, conservatives get mad because I'm sorry, but Hollywood does do this a lot where they will just change races and genders for the sake, nothing else other than the sake of changing races and genders. And I think that's why a lot of people were jumping down their throats was they've lived this life before. They've sung this song before. But in this particular case, it actually made sense in the story, and it did make the story better.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't an arbitrary switch. It wasn't, we don't have enough females. Let's take that male character and make it female. It actually was, if the Silver Surfer is a female, it makes her origin a little better. It fits in more with the theme of family. It makes Johnny's connection to her different. You know, it was meaningful and relevant, that gender swap. And and most of us will say, when we're complaining about this kind of thing, I hate that they're just doing it for the sake of doing it. Well, again, I say to conservatives, when it happens and it's for a really good reason, we should also own that.
Mm-hmm.
And in this movie, I think it was.
Yeah, it was really great to see. And I did care for a lot of the characters. I think everybody had certain moments of complexity, certain moments of I don't want to say coming of age, but I think it's the characters really, really resonated with me. And I love the way, obviously we've had a couple of different incarnations of the characters in other movies from Fox, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
But I loved how they kind of introduced this aspect, and they gave us kind of a little background as to these astronauts that went up and then did their thing and came back down to Earth, and now they've got these powers. So I think that's one of the things I think Marvel excels in is kind of giving that background exposition without actually doing something as obtuse as a straight flashback or anything like that. They incorporated the telling of that story into this story overall, and I think it worked out well.
I love the setting of this movie. I love this neo 60s futuristic New York. I love that there is, and that's what I was talking about earlier with the world building. There's a wider world there. I love that they've created an entire world that does have a history, and these people have a history, and they have a history with that city. And you can see all of these things that are the result of the Fantastic Four being in New York, like the robotic dog walker that you see in a brief scene, and the way the buildings, so many of the buildings look like they could be refugees from the 64 World's Fair. But the biggest thing that was really great to me is when I heard they were making this movie, I said, please God, don't make this an origin movie.
Right. Yeah. Again,
we just don't need it. We don't need an hour to get them into the costumes. Please have them already be in the costume. And so they did a great job of kind of catching up the newbies.
Sure.
Okay, here's where it is. Here's where it happened. Here's how it went down. And then, all right, now we got a story to tell. Now that you've got that locked in, let's just full throttle. And I love it. And honestly, the other thing it did was that first 5 minutes of that film with all of the flashback stuff, or all the the archive footage and everything. It gave a lot of us who love the Fantastic Four almost every moment we really wanted to see in a Fantastic Four movie from the start, except a giant Galactus, which we got to see later.
Sure. No, absolutely. I think somebody mentioned, Danny mentioned the aesthetic, the atomic age aesthetic. I think it looked unique. I think it was great. What did you?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the other things I wanted to compliment is Michael Giacchino's score. I've complained a lot in recent years that there just haven't been a lot of movies where I walk out humming the score, singing the score, and I walked out of this movie and the score just stuck to me. And there are little things that I think are neat. First off, if you go through that kind of chord progression and you sing the Marvel fanfare along with it, there are a lot of places where they match right up. And I have to think, and maybe I'm just reading too much into this, but I have to think that's deliberate in that they are the kind of the foundation of the Marvel universe.
Sure. Yeah.
The theme's kind of based somewhat on the Marvel fanfare that Giacchino also wrote. But also note when they resolve the melody. And right there, when they resolve it, they have the chorus singing Fantastic Four, right?
Yeah.
Note when they do that, 4 quarter notes. It's one measure. Every note is equal, and it's the same note. It's saying, hey, this is a family, this is a group, and they're all equal parts of this machine. Fantastic for all the notes have the same musical value. They are the same note.
They're equal.
They're all an equal part of this. They're all necessary.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't realize you were channeling some David W. Collins there.
I was thinking I'd love to hear him break this down, but
I'm sure we will too.
That just stood out to me really, really boldly. It's like, wait a minute, because it's got all this melody going on, and then when it comes to Fantastic Four, it is the same note 4 times, and they're all quarter notes. They all have the equal weight. They all carry equal. They're all the same.
Well, that's interesting because I did feel like each character, like whenever you see a movie that has kind of an ensemble cast, you worry that somebody might fall in the cracks or not get like equal time. And with something like the Fantastic Four, I think I was worried about that. When the
Mhm.
casts of characters gets bigger, you worry about it a lot more. There's only so much time you can kind of devote to one particular character in general. But I think this film really did kind of devote just the right time to each character.
Yeah.
You felt that each character had a role in the drama that was unfolding. You
Yep.
felt like the importance of the contribution of each character was a key factor to kind of pooling together and working together. And obviously we've been talking about how this is kind of a family oriented film, and not just audiences but characters within the movie as well.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny. Not too long ago, I've been going through a bookcase. I have a bookcase in my room that is stuff that I've bought and just put on the shelf and have never read. And in the last month or so, I've been really just knocking that thing out and just reading stuff that's been sitting there sometimes 20 years. One of the books I recently read that was on that shelf is Comics Creators on the Fantastic Four, and it
Hmm.
interviews Stan Lee, John Byrne, Tom DeFalco, I think, wrote it, and it's got just about every major artist and writer who's ever done Fantastic Four, and talks about it. And one of the questions he asks everybody, and I thought this was neat. One of the questions he asks everybody in the book is ultimately, what is Fantastic Four about? And with the exception of one person, and it's the person that I'd probably consider the worst writer of Fantastic Four ever, so not shocking. With the exception of one person, every single person says it's about family.
Yeah.
It's about a family. And you see that on the screen. You see it in their interactions. And again, I go back to the four quarter notes, all having equal value, all having
Sure.
equal musical weight. Um, these are people on this team who all bring something significant, and you see that in the film. This, they always you've heard the old exercise of, well, if you take Indiana Jones out of Raiders of the Lost Ark, the
Right.
same thing would have happened. If you take any one of these characters out of this film, Galactus eats Earth.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, and
Period.
that's the wonderful thing about this film. I think you can root for everybody, including, one of the antagonists. There's a turn there which is like really, I don't know if it's surprising. They structure it in a way where it's like, "Oh, that's cool," but it's still nice to see. Um,
Wait,
let's
which
talk Silver
which
Surfer.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny because I knew towards the end they did kind of a fake out. I don't want to
Mhm.
go spoiler alert either. They do kind of a fake out right there, and I remember turning to Mrs. Ryfun and go, "This is not over yet." They make you
Right.
think it's not over yet
Sure.
because this particular thing. I knew that particular thing needed to happen to
Right.
complete the Surfer's story arc.
Yeah.
But I also love like Mole Man. I mean, how great is Mole Man?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like
And
every
again,
character is wonderful.
yeah, and it's nice that they threw him into this first film because he was, pretty prevalent in the comic books. So it's nice to see. Let's go back and talk a little bit about some of the cameos.
Mhm.
There are, and this I kind of noticed like some stuff that they sometimes when a director like focuses in on something a little longer than it should, your brain goes, wait a minute, that's somebody or that's going to come into play later.
Mhm.
There were the characters or the actors that played the original Fantastic Four in the Corman
Yes.
shelved movie are in it, which is
Yes.
great. They had seems like they had such a wonderful time during the promotion of the film and
Yeah.
during the premiere, so that's kind of cool.
I'm so glad those guys finally
Yeah.
got their fair shake.
Yeah.
I remember reading years ago, and I can't remember what the magazine was. It might have been Comic Scene or something, but when the movie was in production, there was a whole article about how, this movie's being made and they're using computer effects to save money and it's going to be revolutionary and blah, blah, blah. And of course it was never going to come out. And I wound up getting one of those convention bootlegs of it years ago, years later. And one thing I will say, I actually appreciate that movie because they, they really, with what they had to work with, they did a lot.
Yeah.
And I've always felt bad because I think those guys really felt like they were making a movie that was going to be a big deal, and
Sure.
it was never meant to be. And by the way, the score to that movie is actually pretty good. But so I was glad to see them. They were in a little cameo where they go, thank you, Fantastic Four. But also, Alex Hyde White, not Wilfred, Alex Hyde White. Wilfred's in the pilot episode of Galactica. And he was on Different Strokes at one point. But
Council of the 12.
Yeah. Alex Hyde White is Reed in the movie. He's in that cameo, but he also plays one of the news anchors when they're doing the news updates.
Oh, yeah.
So he's got 2 spots in that film.
Sure.
And then they've got the Stan and Jack cameo.
Yes, I was going to mention that. So they brought in, whether it's younger actors or whatever, but they made them look like like Jack Kirby and Stan Lee looked when they kind of were first starting out back in the 60s, which is really great. Again, in the little circles when they have the little montage, that was fantastic.
Loved it.
Yeah. Danny says, I was worried we would notice John Malkovich's Red Ghost being cut out. But
it was cut out, but it was okay.
Didn't need it.
No, we got the apes. Yeah. We're good.
Yeah. Good stuff. What'd you think of Galactus? Galactus is one of those characters, like, how do you bring someone like Galactus into live action? And obviously we've got that mysterious hand from the Eternals that's kind of floating in midair there like that. Yeah. But, Galactus was one of those characters in the comic books that, he was just a giant dude eating planets. Yeah. How does that translate to live action? I think they did a good job.
Yeah, I remember taking my son to see Rise of the Silver Surfer, which, again, should have been a red flag because it wasn't called Rise of Galactus. But, and I remember coming out going, yeah, okay, Galactus is not a cloud, son. Please don't get the idea Galactus is just some big cloud. And I've had this conversation with people over the years. There used to be this attitude in Hollywood, really strong attitude against comic book movies and comic books. I'm going to tell you a little story. Do you know who Jeffrey Boehm is?
The name sounds familiar. Last name?
Jeffrey Boehm wrote Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Lethal Weapon 2, Lethal Weapon 3, Inner Space, Lost Boys, and Funny Farm. And I met Jeffrey Boehm on the set of Lethal Weapon 3, and we got to be phone buddies about once a month for a couple of years where we would talk and chat about things. And he had just gotten hired to do The Phantom. And of course that came out years later, but I think Joe Dante was attached to it when he'd gotten hired to write it and wound up being like Simon Windsor or somebody. But I remember talking to him because he'd just gotten back from the comic shop and bought a bunch of Phantom stuff, and he was reading through it. And I said, well, what are your thoughts initially about the approach? And he said to me, and this is 1993, probably it was 93. I said, what are your thoughts about the character initially, about, your approach? And he goes, well, the first thing I'm going to do is get him out of that damn purple suit. And I was like, well, wait a minute. The damn purple suit is kind of what visually defines the Phantom. Right. It's what people think of when they see the Phantom. Why would you get rid of it? So, but that was kind of the mentality in Hollywood at the time. And I think that was still in place a little when they made Rise of the Silver Surfer. Well, we can't have a giant, because I heard this from a lot of people. Well, you can't just have a giant guy with these horns on his head and a purple suit. That's just ridiculous. Yeah. Well, no, not if you tell the story with conviction.
Sure.
It's not. And, not if you find a way to visually represent it in a way that you can make people buy it because you have conviction in it. And that's what they did. Yeah. So I loved Galactus. I loved that Galactus looked like Galactus. I love that they had him walking through New York City like they did in the 48 through 50. I love that. Yeah,
it's well done. Like I said, they really took their time to kind of craft the story. I think the narrative was well executed. What did you think of the pacing? I think some people that weren't too keen about the movie said it was boring and there was a lot of talking. I don't know what they're talking about, because even the talking stuff was interesting because obviously it deals with moving the plot forward. There were some emotional points. Obviously, Sue Storm's speech with the crowd and the baby. That was in my theater. You can hear a pin drop. Everybody was paying attention to that speech. It was wonderful.
It's so powerful. For me on the pacing, what I'll say is, the first time I saw the film, I thought the pacing's a little odd because it really is, because it's a Marvel superhero movie where there are 2 action sequences, 2 major action sequences, and that's it, which is kind of weird. But it's also a Marvel movie that's under 2 hours long, which I think is a great thing in this day and age. I think that's smart.
Yeah,
So
right.
it wasn't like they sat and wasted a lot of time and, pontificated for 45 minutes at a shot. The second time I watched it, I was more comfortable with it because I knew that the pace was not, this is not going to be Raiders where it's just one relentless chase for 2 solid hours.
Mhm.
There's a lot of character development. There are a lot of character moments. There are quiet moments. There are funny moments. The pacing is different, but that by no means is bad unless you feel like, and what's interesting is some of the people that I've seen criticize the pacing on that film are some of the same people that complain about the Marvel formula.
Mhm.
Oh, Marvel formula, that's the same old thing over and over. Well, this is not the same old thing. Pacing wise, it's a different kind of film.
Sure.
So it's different. If you haven't seen it, we're not spoiler alerting, but there are literally 2 major action sequences in the film, and that's it. But that's okay because that's the film it is. It's a film about family who happen to be dealing with a threat to the planet.
Sure. Yeah, I think it was done well. I think the pacing didn't bother me. I think early on, it was a little like the first act was a little truncated. It felt a little truncated, but I think,
Mhm.
once you get past that, you realize that this is the story they're telling. They're deliberate. Like you said, they're telling you that story with conviction. Um,
Mhm.
One of the things from a scientific aspect, my science nerd brain caught a very, very big plot hole in the film. And I'm wondering if it bothered you any, or if I'm just too Albert Einstein about the whole thing. When they zip off into space in their faster than light, ship, do the mission, and
Mhm.
then come back to Earth. Only a month have passed, but we all know that if you travel faster than light and then come back to Earth, only if a short time for you has passed, but a longer time for Earth has passed. It should have been a couple thousand years before they got back,
You
because of
better take that up with the Millennium Falcon while you're at it. Because that's every science fiction does, and they do mention, by the way, they're working wormholes. I mean, they do mention that in the film that they're kind of working through these
yeah, and they
wormholes.
they fudged through a little bit of time dilation, but I think
Yeah.
time dilation works forward, not backwards, usually
Mm.
in
But I'm just
science.
yes, science. But again, to me, that's being able to successfully do faster than light without the consequences is just kind of a standard science fiction trope. We just buy it. We buy warp speed on Star Trek.
Sure. Yeah.
It's all the same thing to me. So I
Um,
didn't have a problem. I had a bigger problem with the way they conserved energy on the thing because well, everybody has to do without power at this time every night so we can
oh
have enough
yeah,
energy, and that's really not the way energy production works.
right. Just make more energy, or
Yeah, just make
put
more. Yeah,
put
if you
some
don't use
windmills in.
yeah, if you don't use it tonight at 8 o'clock, that doesn't mean it's still going to be sitting there. It's not
Right.
gas in your tank. It's not going to be sitting there in a month.
Or there's going to be
Um,
more. It's going to be more powerful or whatever. But yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But again, those are kind of some of the little science fiction tropes that we kind of deal with as fans of this genre. We have to, I guess we have to be, we have to be able to kind of dismiss some of those things, but for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
What else about Fantastic Four? I really enjoyed it again in the movie theater. I'm gonna probably watch it again with the son next weekend if it's still around. Hopefully, it still will be, but definitely. Does it have rewatchability for you? Out of all the films that you've seen this summer, does it have rewatchability for you?
It's the most rewatchable movie I've seen in a while.
Okay.
I really, it's funny because on my first viewing, I said, I like this movie, but I don't love it like I wanted to love it. And after the second viewing, I'm going, I love this movie. It's very rewatchable. There's so many little things. And again, we talk about, as we talked earlier, there's this world, there's this fully realized world. It's there. And I'll tell you, one of the goofy things about Hollywood is, you have opening day and it's usually Friday. And opening day was always Friday. And then they do a midnight show on Friday at 12:01 Friday, because now it's Friday. We can show the film.
Yes.
And of course, people got old like you and me. And we don't go at midnight to the movie. And that's crazy. So then they started going, oh, well, 9:00 Thursday is actually Friday. I went, yes, that makes sense. That's even better than your faster than light thing. And then Hollywood was like, well, we've had a lot of success by calling 9:00 Thursday Friday. Let's call 6:00 Thursday Friday.
Right.
And they went, okay. So then people started going. So then they moved it 3:00 Thursday is Friday. And now 2:00 Thursday is Friday. So we actually, Mrs. Ryfun and I went and saw it Thursday at 2, the very first show that they did. I had been talking, my son couldn't make it because he's a banker and he works banker's hours.
Sure.
So he had to see the 8:00 show. But my son and I were talking and he said, G-Man, he said, I might want to go see this in Pooler. Oh, you don't know Pooler? Okay. Pooler is a suburb of Savannah, really well-to-do. And there's a theater there called Royal Cinema.
Okay.
And Royal Cinema boasts the tallest IMAX in the world.
Oh, okay.
And so he was going, and he said, the Galactus scenes open up to full IMAX aspect ratio. And he's like, if this movie's good, I'm going to want to see it in Pooler. And I said, well, if you go see it in Pooler Saturday, I might go with you. So little do I know that he went ahead and bought the tickets. So I was going to go see this movie twice, no matter what.
Cool.
So Saturday we went and saw it in the world's tallest IMAX in Pooler. And just an amazing experience.
Sure.
That movie is so gorgeous. The Thing, who again, one of my favorites, just pops off the screen.
Yeah.
Torch looks great. Galactus looks amazing. It's just
visually stunning. It's funny because the Thing is one of those characters, in the comic books, you look at it and you're like, okay, it's a rock dude. But then when it comes to live action, especially through the years, you're like, how are they going to do that? On screen, I was like looking at the difference between his eye line and where his face is, joins the rest of the body and how they do it. And I'm like, I can't tell where, the real begins and the fake ends. And I know they actually had the actor wear a big bodysuit for reference.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. It was seamless. It was well done. And obviously, I'm a lover of the franchise, and I'm not sitting there, nitpicking every special effects because that would ruin my fun for sure. But it definitely is one of those things where you do have to watch it on the big screen to get the full impact, because it is gorgeous. Like you said, the sound effects are amazing. The score is great. Overall, it's just a fun movie.
And there's several times where I'm watching that movie. You mentioned The Thing. Several times I'm watching that movie where there's just a straight on shot of his face, and he's got that brow, and he's got those bright blue eyes looking up at you through the brow. And I go, that's John Byrne's Thing.
Yeah.
That right there is John Byrne's Thing that they just put on screen.
Right.
And there's several times where that happens, and just about chill bump inducing.
Yeah. We mentioned it before. I think, Marvel really did their homework on this one, and it shows, and I hope people enjoy it. I hope people go watch it on the big screen, whether you have a Pooler screen or not, wherever you enjoy your films.
If you can't see it at the IMAX, it's still worth seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else? Any final thoughts before I'm going to make an announcement on how people can win some Scarif swag? I posted a picture of all these wonderful things that I want to get rid of and give to people. But any last thoughts?
Yeah, my last thoughts for people who haven't seen it: when you go, please stay. It's a Marvel movie. There are two post-credits scenes, one mid-credit, one post-credits. They're both worth watching, though the first one is very significant, and I'll leave it at that.
Absolutely. Good stuff. And, I still scratch my head when I see people leave towards the credits when a Marvel movie ends. Yeah. I just want to pull them down and say, what the hell are you doing? Sit your ass back down, because I always contributed to, they probably have been holding their pee or whatever for the last 92 minutes and really need to go. So,
well, there's a website. There's a website that tells you when you can pee.
When we can go. Exactly.
Yeah, there's a website that tells you the moment you can go pee. Have that locked in and go then.
and then do your business and come back.
Correct.
Absolutely. Yes. Scott, thank you very much for joining me on this edition of the Scuttlebutt podcast, Scarif Live. Fantastic Four discussion. You're fantastic.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the opportunity to, especially this. This was something, like I said, when I first saw it, I liked it a lot, but when I saw it the second time, I love this movie. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it.
Excellent. Yes. Thank you very much for indulging my questions as well. And folks in the chat, if you are still sticking around. So last week, Brad and I, was it last week or maybe 2 weeks ago? We did episode 226, 5 questions edition. If you learn to hold it like a man. Yeah, exactly. So if you go back and listen to episode 226, Brad and I did a 5-question show. If you want to learn or win some Scarif Scuttlebutt swag, I've got a whole bunch of collectibles and little knickknacks that I would love to give 3 people. But you got to do a couple things. First of all, you have to pick one of the questions that Brad and I asked each other, answer it, record it either through our voicemail, which is 773-234-8659, or email us a voice clip at scarifscuttlebutt@gmail.com, and go to wherever you log on to listen to the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast and write a review of the show. It would really appreciate hearing what you have to say. Write a review, post it online, screenshot it, and tag us so we can see it. But more importantly, obviously, we want to hear what your answers are to one of the 5 questions in episode 226 of the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. And you will be selected randomly. Whoever puts their entry in the hat.
Can I be selected randomly?
You definitely can be selected randomly. I will be selecting 3 people to send out various collectibles, various items, action figures, toys, books, what have you. I've got a whole bunch of stuff that I pick up from time to time. And just take a look at, I think I posted that earlier in the afternoon. There's a picture of some of the stuff that I'm going to be giving away. But yeah, excellent. We love giving stuff away here at the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. Just look for that post, and we will. Let's see. We'll pick a. Hopefully, we'll get more than 3 entries. But if we don't, we'll see what happens. But please do us a favor and enter to win some Scarif Scuttlebutt swag. Scott,
Yo,
where can people find you to say hello there?
hello there. I'm out. I'm around. You can find me at Ryfun on the X. I'm Scott Ryfun on Facebook. I'm all full of friends on Facebook, but you can follow and interact and on Messenger, but mostly just I guess the X. And of course I'm on the iHeartRadio app every single morning from 6 until 10, and on WGIG, and then the podcast version of the show is available every single day, every single hour, minus the commercials later in the day. How's that? Beautiful stuff. And every time I have you, I want to talk Battlestar Galactica for some reason. We got to talk about it, especially those new toys they announced at San Diego.
I saw.
Oh,
very nice.
You want a 3 3/4 scale Viper? About time.
That's right. And it won't poke your eye out with the little missile.
I had mine. I still have the ship. I don't have any of the missiles.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, guys. Thank you so much, everybody in the chat, for joining us on this Wednesday night, a Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. Next week, if you paid attention to my posts, because I'm constantly posting, Spencer Dingus Den and I will be reviewing a new comic book that came out. I don't know if it came out just recently, but I got it. Oh, actually, it's right here. Let's see. What are we reviewing? Yes.
What it is?
Godzilla versus Chicago.
Oh.
In their Godzilla versus series. I know they had a whole bunch of different ones. Godzilla versus Los Angeles. It's what company is this? ID Comics? IDW Publishing. Yeah.
They've had Godzilla for a little while.
Yeah. So Godzilla versus Chicago. We're still picking up the pieces here from that attack. So
Sorry about that.
sorry about that. Join us next Wednesday here on the Scuttlebutt podcast, Scarif Live. We'll be talking about Godzilla versus Chicago. And maybe I'll give this one away. Excellent. All right, folks. Remember, if you enjoyed the discussion here, there's more where that came from. Look at our back catalog of shows, pick a topic, and listen to our fun discussions, and let us know what you find. We are part of the Red 5 Network. Head on over to bio.link/Red5 for other cool podcasts. Aww. Who's the puppy? Very nice. Look at her. Excellent. Chat, thank you very much. You guys are awesome. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and make sure you've hit the thumbs up as well. This is Ro. We'll have Brad on next time. Let's see if I can coax him out of retirement. Until next time, this is Ro, and that is Scott. It's always sunny on Scarif, and that's the Scuttlebutt, and I'm sticking to it. Talk to you guys later.